They're the first person people call when in crisis. They show up for everyone. They listen to endless problems. They give advice, support, and resources. They're endlessly patient and infinitely helpful. And they're falling apart. Nobody notices because they're so good at taking care of everyone else that taking care of themselves becomes invisible. Here's what psychology reveals. People who help everyone but themselves aren't noble or selfless. They're following a pattern, often learned in childhood, that sacrifices their own well-being for others' approval, and the cost accumulates silently until they burn out. Here's the real psychology of people who help everyone but themselves. First, they learn conditional love. Their parent affection, approval, or basic safety was contingent on them being helpful, caretaking, managing emotions, or solving problems. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner's research on family patterns shows that children who learn love is conditional on usefulness grow into adults who equate helping with being worthy. Here's what this looks like. A child has a parent who's struggling, anxious, or emotionally dysregulated. The child learns they can manage the parent's emotions by being helpful, compliant, or taking on adult responsibilities. When they help, the parent is grateful. When they don't, the parent withdraws affection or escalates crisis. Dr. John Bowlby's attachment research shows that children adapt to conditional love by developing behavioral strategies that earn approval, and for many, helping becomes that strategy. What happens neurologically? The child's brain develops neural pathways where helping equals safety, being needed equals being loved, and caring for others equals survival. Second, their identity is built on being helpful. Their entire sense of self is the person who helps, supports, listens, shows up. And that identity is so strong that being anything else feels like dissolution. Psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-concept shows that when your entire identity is constructed around one role, stepping outside that role feels like losing yourself. Here's the pattern. Over years of helping everyone, they become known as the helper. People expect it. People depend on it. And more importantly, they've come to depend on the identity. It answers the question, who am I? If they're not the helper, who are they? Dr. Carol Dweck's research on fixed mindset shows that when people identify strongly with a role, I'm the helpful one, they often can't imagine being different without feeling like they're being inauthentic. What this creates psychologically, they can't stop helping without experiencing an identity crisis. Saying no to helping feels like saying no to themselves. Taking time for their own needs feels like betraying the person they are. Research shows that people with helper identity often experience severe anxiety when unable to help because the identity is so central to their self-concept. Third, enmeshment. They developed emotional enmeshment with a family member, usually a parent, which means their emotions, needs, and boundaries are blended with another person's. Psychologist Dr. Salvador Minichin's structural family therapy identifies enmeshment as a family pattern where individual identities aren't separate. There's a we but no real I. Here's what happens in enmeshed relationships. You don't experience your own needs as separate from the other person's. When the other person is sad, you feel responsible. When they're struggling, their struggle becomes your struggle. Dr. Harriet Lerner's work shows that enmeshed people often can't distinguish between their emotions and others' emotions. They take on responsibility for managing other people's feelings as if those feelings were their own. What develops? An excessive sense of responsibility for others' well-being combined with an underdeveloped sense of responsibility for their own well-being. Fourth, deep fear of being a burden. They learned early that being needy, asking for help, or having problems made them a burden. Psychologist Dr. Joshua Coleman's research on shame shows that many people with helping patterns have deep core shame around needing help. They experience their own needs as unwelcome or burdensome in childhood. Here's what this looks like. Their parent was depleted, struggling, or emotionally unavailable. When the child expressed needs, the parent became frustrated, angry, or overwhelmed. The child learned, my needs are too much. I am too much. Asking for help is selfish. Dr. Bream Brown shame research shows that this pattern creates core beliefs like, I'm a burden when I need things, or I should manage everything alone so no one has to deal with me. What develops? They'll help anyone because helping is how they prove they're not a burden. Fifth, using helping to manage anxiety. When they help, their anxiety decreases because they feel in control, useful, and secure in a relationship. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner identifies this as compulsive caregiving. The helper uses helping as an anxiety management strategy. The helping is actually serving their own psychological need. Even though it looks selfless, here's the neuroscience. When someone with anxiety tendencies helps, their brain releases dopamine, the achievement chemical, and oxytocin, the bonding chemical. Helping feels good. Dr. Jake Panksepp's research on emotional systems shows that caregiving activates reward pathways in the brain. So the helper becomes addicted to the chemical reward of helping. What this creates? They use helping the way others use alcohol or shopping as a way to manage difficult emotions. Here's what psychology is clear about. People who help everyone but themselves are usually following patterns learned when their own needs weren't safe, weren't welcomed, or weren't modeled as important. They learn that love is conditional on usefulness. They learn that helping earns approval. They learn that asking for help is burdensome. They learn that managing anxiety through helping works temporarily. So if you're the person everyone calls, remember, you can't be there for everyone if you're not there for yourself. Your needs aren't selfish. Your boundaries aren't cruel. Your rest isn't abandonment. You deserve the same kindness, support, and care you give everyone else. Start with yourself. That's not selfish. That's survival.